Welcome back to Shifting Overthinking to Marketing Movement, a limited audio series for creative, equity-led solopreneurs with a story and expertise to share. This gets you out of your own head to find clarity and direction so you can build sustainable marketing processes that fit your body, brain, and capacity. Last episode, we've talked about understanding your own energy patterns and building in rest or buffer time into your days, weeks, and general plans. I'd love to be able to tell you that solves all of your capacity problems, but I still get knocked on my ass. We all do. We get the flu. Our kid brings a bug home from school. We have busy periods, which can lead to exhaustion or worse. Because I didn't heed the lesson from last episode, I now realize that by resisting the needed rest and buffer time, I myself was in a cycle of burnout for the 2 years after that initial collapse and the severe flare that came afterward. Let's face it though, the longer you walk away from creating or working on your business, the harder it can be to return. I felt like there had to be a way to weave in and out depending on how I felt. I regret to inform you that some of preparing for and managing low capacity periods will depend on you being in a more up phase energy-wise. But future you will thank you for the things that you do now. Going back to the flagship content concept, I feel like that is a major way that you can set yourself up for dipping energy levels. It's more substantial, it has a longer life cycle than social media, and it's part of the slow and steady system building piece of my capacity building marketing processes. Like in previous episodes, we're not expecting to have all of these pieces all set up and put together all at once. We're building a roadmap that helps us pick back up when we're in the creation and higher capacity parts of our own cycles and seasons. I've always found the word systems an icky word to my neurodivergent brain. But I've started to come to peace with the necessity of them with a reframe. Systems are just me making decisions about things ahead of time. I have to remind myself it's not an external structure that I may feel pulled to rebel against. It's compiling the ways that I know that my brain works and giving it a break so that I'm not worried that I've forgotten something along the way. In my personal life, I've lost my keys and my wallet more times than I could care count. I've had to have IDs replaced. I've gone to go to the Social Security office. I've had to call locksmiths to let me back into my car, and that is not cheap, by the way. And so to avoid losing my keys, I have a backup that I've given to 1 or 2 trusted friends. I've installed hooks by my front door to keep them at all times when I'm not using them. And I utilize carabiners either on my pants, like the true trans mask that I am, or like physically on my backpack so that I can feel them on my person and make sure that they are physically with me. And these are systems. And they work because I no longer have to physically think about them anymore. If you are a service provider or you engage in creative work of any kind, the less brain power you can devote on what to work on or how to work on it, the more you're going to be able to devote to the act of creating. And it is very freeing when you realize that, at least for me. When I start to feel like, I'm going to feel bad or I've extended myself further than I normally would, I know that things like starting later and rearranging my work environment help me to rest, but I also change the tasks that I will do as well. I call this aspect minimum viable promotion, and it really helps to dispel this all or nothing mindset that we can find ourselves in. It helps me to think about, how do I show signs of life when I don't really feel like it? How do I post or repost to my Instagram stories? Do I comment on friends' posts and stories instead of creating on my own? Or, just as valid, do I give myself permission to completely unplug? Depending on your situation, any of these can work. It does help to be a little bit more granular and have that backup plan in place. Marketing really does often lead to this all or nothing mindset that, if you didn't create a reel or you didn't write your newsletter this week or you didn't hit record, that there's really no point in you posting or there's no point in being visible. But just because you don't have the spoons to create something longer or more in depth or something that requires more editing, it doesn't mean that you can't snap a quick picture and post it to your stories or talk in your stories and hit record for 20 seconds, or respond to other people's content. There's levels to everything, including, feeling low capacity. And if we don't hit the high standards for ourselves, we can get paralyzed or decide it's not worth trying. But, on the flip side, if we don't do anything, then we use that to beat ourselves up as well. I have been in that cycle recovering from my flare, and it just felt like either way, I was letting myself down. If you're recovering from deep burnout, like I was, the best thing you can do is give yourself permission to go on a pause. Minimum viable promotion can be nothing, but acknowledging that's where you're at right now can also feel freeing. Hey, I'm completely unplugging, I'm recharging, I'm refilling the well. I eventually do want to do a live event on coming back from a marketing pause like this. So if that's something that interests you, let me know, and be sure to get on my email list to get an update of when I decide to do that. So the action step, this may feel self-evident, but I want to talk about, give yourself a couple of options for what the minimum promotion you can get away with when you're not feeling productive. Being present in your community counts. Reposting other people's content counts. Completing client work, the stuff that gets us paid, that counts. Going back to what I said, nothing also counts because you're respecting what part of the cycle you're in. One thing that is low lift and that you can do to help yourself is building what I call the content asset library. I say you can do this during low periods because it doesn't really take much in the way of active creative thinking. It can be as simple as copy and pasting the content snippets you've written from your notes app into a Google Doc or to your project management system. It can be creating folders in Canva to categorize your uploaded photos or your stock photos that you use a lot. It can be saving inspiration to create a mood board and keeping that in a place where you create your content. Some people call this act productive procrastination, but I think of it also just as using your capacity wisely. This is an admin thing that'll make it easier for you to come back, or it'll make it so that it saves you time in the long run. You are giving the future you the tools you need to keep momentum going without pushing yourself. I keep a Google Drive of many folders. And if you want to see how I organize it, let me know. I can make a video where I walk through my organization system with that. But to give you an idea, my library includes the copy for my email sequences, my testimonials, website copy, my opt-ins, slide decks from workshops I've done, landing page copy, client deliverable templates, among other things. I will say this does need regular cleanup and maintenance. So if you're in a creation cycle, you're going to want to keep that up to date. But what's nice is this can be part of your minimal viable promotion plan. Go through your notes app or your content library for work that may be good, but either hasn't been seen for a while, or maybe it got left in your drafts. Let's say you're not in deep burnout or depletion, but are coming back from that. Hopefully this series is giving you an idea on where to get started. But if not, I'm going to discuss the Story Spark roadmap and how to prioritize your next few steps in the next episode. So in closing, make meaningful progress in your business by shifting out of overthinking, clarifying your priorities that match your capacity and values so that you can move forward in your marketing. I'll see you in the next one.